Hello everybody, today I'm doing a video on why are so many people moving away from Sedona. You may have heard some myths, you may have heard some facts, but I'm going to tell you the reasons that people actually move away from Sedona, and I'm going to separate the fact from the myth. So stay tuned. If you ever wonder why are people moving away, why does Sedona have a declining population? So the channel is Living in Northern Arizona, where I'll teach you everything there is to know about living in the northern half of the state. My name is Dawn Dickinson. I am a realtor here in Northern Arizona. So if you ever have a question about moving to Arizona, selling a house, buying a house, what it's like here, my contact information is always in the description below. And I love to have a conversation about real estate. So give me a call, email, text, and I will get back to you. Okay, the first reason I see people selling their houses and moving away from Sedona is because right now home prices are so high and homes are with so much money that a lot of people will say, wow, I've got $600,000 or I got $800,000 worth of equity in my home here in Sedona, and they will sell their home and buy another home somewhere else that's a little bit less expensive, like somewhere in Phoenix, somewhere in Tucson, or maybe even nearby Payson, because now they can buy a really nice house for cash, have no mortgage payment, and when you're in retirement, that can be very attractive. I have to admit, I have considered this myself. Wow, if I sell my Sedona house, maybe I can just buy a really nice cash house and then I can retire on schedule and not work till I die. So that is something that tempts people, and I see that happening. I've closed deals where one of the sellers, well, the seller has moved away, and it was so that they can use that equity to buy a cash home somewhere else and make retirement transition much easier. So that's probably a very common reason people move away from Sedona. Another reason I have heard said that people move away from Sedona because they move here and the energy from the vortex is so intense that you can't live here for more than a couple of years, and then people will pick up and move away from Sedona. I actually heard that in a book about the Sedona vortex. Somebody actually believes that you come and the vortex energy is so intense that you can only live here a couple of years and then you move away. Now, I want to say I believe this is a myth because I never in my career have encountered anyone moving away because the vortex energy is too intense. None of the houses I've sold, looked at, talked to listing agent, talked to other people, you know, I live here, so none of my neighbors have said, oh, I can't take the vortex energy, I gotta get out. So I'm gonna put that one as a myth, that the vortex energy is too intense for people to live here. So that's reason number 2. Okay, reason number 3 I hear for people leaving Sedona is they say Sedona has become too crowded. Now I want to tell you it's not because there are too many residents. Actually, between all of the city of Sedona, there's less than 10,000 residents, and if you want to count Village of Oak Creek and the outskirts area, maybe another 6,000. So not because there are too many residents, but because there's too many tourists, especially in the high season in April, March, April, May, very crowded, hard to get across town because the traffic is so heavy, hard to find stuff to do without tourists being everywhere. And it's not that we don't like tourists here. I want to tell you that. It's not, we don't like the tourists. The problem is there's just too many. There are a billion, I don't want to say a billion. There are many resorts, many hotels, and on top of that, just the last decade, short-term rentals have gone crazy, and there's 1,200 or so short-term rentals in Sedona. So it's been overpopulated during the tourist season, and some of the residents just say, I can't take it anymore, and they move away. So that is number 3 reason why some people have moved away from Sedona. Okay, another reason I want to say this is true, actually. People will move to Sedona and they'll realize it's just too expensive to live here. I couldn't get the job I thought I would live here. My business didn't work out, and I just can't earn enough to live comfortably in Sedona. Now, I want to go back and say this is true, but this is true more often for renters than for homeowners. Homeowners often will either be retired or they will be approaching retirement, so they have other sources of income to live in. Other people are semi-retired and they actually do work at the local places like, you know, the golf course, say, or the galleries, but that's not not because they have to, it's just because, you know, they want to do something and be part of the community. So homeowners less likely to move away because they just can't make it financially, but you do have renters, people that come kind of like Hollywood, you know, can I make it in Sedona? And they're here a couple of years and they're renting and they're just like, I just can't do it. They can't financially. So that is another thing that will drive people away, is just the cost of living is so high, and mostly that's because of housing, outrageously expensive housing, and then groceries super expensive. So cost of living, that does drive some people to move away from Sedona. Okay, reason number 5, this is the number one reason that Sedona has a declining population, is people have owned their homes for years and then they put it up for sale, and an investor will come in, sometimes from out of town, sometimes from out of state, sometimes they've never even set foot in Sedona, and they will see that this neighborhood allows short-term rentals, and they will buy a home from a former resident and convert it to a short-term rental. So you have two things going on here. One is that people want to retire or live here. Now they can't compete because some rich person or some rich corporation has bought a home that was a residence and they've made it into a short-term rental. Then the other thing that's happened is over time, over the last 10 years, people that had a whole neighborhood full of friends and just neighbors that were neighborly, now those homes are one by one gone and short-term rentals are moved in. So you might have a block that had 12 houses, say, that all had either people living there full-time, or maybe you have a lot of part-time residents too, that you're here in the wintertime and gone in the summertime. So those homes now are occupied by renters, short-term renters, vacationers, and so you might have a block that had 12 people and now 9 of them are short-term rentals and 3 of them are left with people that live here, and the people actually wouldn't be moving away, but they're like, I can't take it anymore. All the neighbors are gone. I got partiers behind me. I got, you know, vacationers to the left of me. Everything. I'm surrounded by rentals, and they get disgusted and they put up their home and they leave. So a lot of the local people in the areas that allow the short-term rentals feel like they have been driven away from their home because of greed. So probably the number one reason that you see the declining population is because a house that was a resident has now been converted to a short-term rental, and the locals that want to live here or retire here just can't compete with that. So number one reason why people have moved away, the declining population, so is because the house was replaced by a mini hotel. So I had a client tell me once that the reason that Sedona's population had declined is because people move here and they realize all this woo-woo spiritual stuff is fake, and then they move away. So I want to say that is also myth. Again, we told you the real reason people have declined, or the population has declined, is because residents are being people move away because they got old or whatever, and now an investor has come in and made it a short-term rental. So that's the real reason of the declining population. Generally, with the spiritual stuff, you're either into it or you're not before you move here. Like, you know it's here. You don't. Some people do move here for this because they love it and they want to retire or they want to start a business here. But typically, you don't move here into the spiritual stuff and then realize, ooh, it's all fake, and then move away. Typically, you have that idea that it's real or fake, and you don't move here or move away because of that, because that doesn't usually change in people. I mean, it does sometimes, but it's not usually the driving factor of somebody moving away from Sedona. And people will often move to Sedona not because of the woo-woo spiritual stuff, but because of the beauty, and that it's a small town, and it is a wonderful place to live, and you don't usually decide on your journey living here that, wow, this is a bunch of crap, and sell your house. So that is the myth, the spiritual stuff driving people away. Okay, and another reason I see houses go up for sale, this isn't really people moving away, but what has happened recently is a lot of people have come in. I mean, the last 5 years, short-term rental, Airbnb, VRBO is all the craze for any investor within earshot of social media, saying how fantastic of an investment short-term rentals are, and easy money and passive income. You don't have to do anything and you can make a fortune. So we've had this drive of people buying the short-term rentals, but then sometimes you get here and they've had it operating for 3 or 4 years and they realize, wow, this isn't the easy, super passive income that I thought it was going to be. Because what happens is First of all, the first thing that's happened is Sedona's gotten pretty saturated with short-term rentals, and now you all have to register with the city of Sedona, and Sedona has the count of how many they are. They say there are about 1,200 that they know exist, and about 1,100 have been registered. So you have to register with the city and get a license, and then you have other things to do. So you have to pay your platform, right? VRBO or Airbnb or whatever that will cost you, and then often you're going to have a property manager in addition to your platform, and then you've got to pay the licensing fee for the city of Sedona. You now have to run background checks on your guests to make sure that you have sex offenders coming in and staying in the area. You also have to clean between visits. You have to pay for all the utilities. You have to pay for a landscaper to keep the place looking clean. You have to go tell all the neighbors that you're running an Airbnb. You have to supply furniture. You have to supply linens. You have to supply cookware. So all of that stuff is super expensive, and between all the work of managing all this and the cost of having to pay housekeepers and property manager and the platform and a dishwasher and a landscaper and all the utilities too. So the other thing is, if you have a long-term rental, your renter actually will do that. Your renter will keep it clean and pay all the utilities and look after the stuff, and they have their own furniture and they have their own linens and they have their own plates. So not telling you right now that Airbnb isn't profitable, because I know it is. There wouldn't be 1,200 of them if it wasn't. But some people are expecting super easy passive income, and all I have to do is kick out some local and I'll be rich. And then after a few years, they're like, wow, this is not so easy, or this is not so profitable, or the two of them combined, and then that home will go up for sale, and either another investor will buy it, or somebody will move into the community and retire, or just decide to live there. So, okay, before I tell you the very last reason that I know of people moving away from Sedona, something that I see quite often, I want to tell you that if you are interested in moving to Sedona, but you don't want to be next to one of these short-term rentals or some other issue that you don't know about, that's why it's very important for you to reach out to a local agent, preferably somebody who lives in Sedona, and I can help you, say, if you want to work with me, I can help you find areas that don't allow the short-term rentals, or an area that's not in a flood zone, for instance. It's very important in Sedona. It's a very unique market for you to work with somebody who knows the area very well, and preferably somebody who lives there. So that being said, the last reason I see people moving away from Sedona is that they pass away. A lot of people have moved here 20, 30 years ago when they're approaching retirement age. They end up living out their days here, and then they pass away and their heirs are selling the property. So I have done several deals like this in Sedona where owners lived there, loved the place, but then they died and passed away, and that's why the house came up for sale. That's it. Those are the top reasons. I think there's 7 that people move away from Sedona. I hope you enjoyed the video. My name's Dawn Dickinson. I am a realtor here in Northern Arizona. So if you ever want to buy or sell in Sedona or Verde Valley, Prescott, Flagstaff, my contact information always below. If you want to reach me, give me a call, text, email, and I will get back to you. The channel is Living in Northern Arizona, and I talk every single week about a different subject matter pertaining to any of the towns here in Northern Arizona. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please give me a like, thumbs up, subscribe, and I hope to see you back here again next week.